web. All right. So I'm going to check back in. So last session, we were talking about stages A and B of the brainstorm process. And just to recap, this is the interactive part. What are we doing in stage A?
Asking them to talk about the conflict.
In stage A of the brainstorm. So they've talked about
Okay.
we're getting, and we're in the brainstorm section. In stage A, what's the thing we're working on?
All ideas.
We're trying to get all of the ideas. Excellent. Yeah, so we want to, in stage A, exhaust all the values and feelings that we have to support them in coming up with as many ideas as possible, okay? So we're asking them, we're starting off with one open-ended question. What are all the ideas? We're using a value. Earlier you were saying that transparency was important to you with communication. What are all the ideas to get transparency? And then we're doing win-win knits. So I think when you were talking about transportation, you wanted ideas that would get you assurances around safety. You were looking for ideas that would get you convenience. So what are all the ideas that you have around transportation that would get both the convenience and the assurances around safety? Okay, so we do that, and I'm just putting those in rotation, and I keep alternating with that until I have exhausted all the values that I have collected and all the values that my co-mediator has collected on this topic. Okay. Then in stage B, what are we working on?
Quick agreements.
Quick agreements, right? So we want to make sure that we are supporting their collaborative decision-making by getting the stuff that we know that they can easily and quickly agree to. Hold on a second. I put the brainstorm handout in the chat and it's not opening because I have it open elsewhere. All right, let's see. All right, so that's in the chat now if you want to see that. And I'm also going to, for shits and giggles, I'm going to add my Tracee's formulas for media, for brain. It says framing topics, but it's also framing topics, win-win knits, and reality checks. So we're gonna be talking about some of that. So in stage B, I'm getting quick agreements, and so things that I feel they have the slightest bit of hesitation with. What am I doing? You can use the old school language, what we used to say we were doing with it back in the day when we were at flip charts with markers.
Marking it to come back.
Okay, yeah. So if there's the slightest bit of like hesitation on it, I'm putting a dot by it and I'm saying, okay, what else do you feel like you can quickly agree to, right? And if they have consensus on it, what am I doing?
Highlight.
I'm circling it, right? Or highlighting. Highlighting if you're on the
Zoom.
on the Zoom, right? Circling it if you're in real time. Okay. Has anybody done a live in-person mediation since the pandemic? I've done a attendance mediation in person in Carroll County. And Web has too. I don't know if it was attendance mediation, but you've done a mediation in person. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to get to stage C, and what's stage C focused on?
Going back to those dotted ideas.
Yeah, the ones that needed some tweaking and adjusting before they could get to consensus on it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the video. I got it all queued up and ready for you. But before I do that, any questions about stage A and stage B of brainstorming? Good, good. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share a screen. Where'd it go? Oh. Oh, I realized I just did something wrong. I realized what I've done wrong. Hold on, hold on. Gotta do hit all the buttons. All right, here we go. So we're picking up again at stage C where we're tweaking and adjusting on the brainstorm.
All right, now it's time for stage C of the brainstorming process. In this stage, you're going back to those ideas that had some potential, most of which you probably put a dot by them, but you still want to ask if are there any other ideas that they feel like could work with a little bit of adjusting. Go back to those ideas, again, using their values to ask them, how can they make both of their values work for these particular solutions? Take your time, make sure that they have enough time to think about what would work for them.
Okay, so now we're gonna move into stage C of the brainstorming process, and this is where we'll take a look at the ideas that you have dotted. So these are the ones that somebody likes and somebody doesn't like so much, to see what you want to do to adjust these or what new ideas you have about these. So we're going to start with this one, which is Wesley stops making Tasha the butt of jokes. And earlier, Wesley, you were saying that like fun and entertainment was a piece of that for you. And you said you enjoy making Tasha the butt of jokes. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's just fun to do. And my friends get a kick out of it. And I guess at one point, Tasha was getting a kick out of it, but maybe it's gone too far. So as far as she's concerned, because she definitely put that up there.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear about what you were saying, so for you, that's about entertaining your friends and having fun, and it sounded like you were, like having fun with Tasha was something that was important to you, and you feel misunderstood around your intentions for those jokes.
Right.
And so now you want to get clarity around what for you changed from it being fun to feeling offensive.
And what
to
prompted
Tasha.
them to make that comment, right?
Okay, Tasha, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I mean, you know, his comments, yeah, they used to be funny, but now it's changed from like ha funny to more snarky, and just like trying to embarrass me is what it feels like. Like if it's something that, you know, that I would find funny, you know, I would laugh with him, but you know, the stuff that I'm talking about is like not funny, and I think he does know the difference.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying that you're beginning to feel targeted more recently around
Right.
the joke, around those jokes, and it sounds like you feel confident that Wesley knows the difference between what's funny and what's more what feels more like a target. Is that right?
Right, because it just feels like he's not, like we're not getting a good laugh together. Like he's using me, you know, humiliate me to get everybody else to laugh.
Okay.
When it's
So
nothing
feeling
fun about
used
that.
in the feeling
Exactly.
used in the jokes. So what ideas might get you all? So Wesley, you're saying it sounds like again having fun with Tasha is important to you.
So along what she just said, I can make sure that I do not post any humiliating comments towards Tasha.
What other ideas might get you the fun and entertainment that you're looking for, and also the protection?
I mean, if
And I'm gonna just capture new ideas over here on this paper.
when we talk about,
yeah, I mean, like if he just comes and talks to me to let me know if he's upset at something I said, then
Do we have that?
I think that would take care of it.
I think we just kind of write it again, it would be,
Okay,
Wesley talks to Tasha.
He's upset about something she said.
Yeah, and then we can just check in. Like if I feel some type of way about what he says, and then I'll check to make sure, you know, we okay.
So is that Tasha and Wesley checked in?
Yes.
I was gonna say we can probably review it before we post it, so to speak.
You will review it together, is that what you're saying?
Right, that we look at it together.
So I want to make sure I grab this whole idea as well. So was that Tasha and Wesley check-in? What were you saying the check-in will be about?
Check in, like if I feel like he's being snarky, to check in to see if he's upset about something.
To see if Wesley is upset about something when Tasha sees a snarky post.
Another idea I think you were saying, Tasha, was that also you would talk to Wesley if you're upset about something he said. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, so Tasha talks, okay, to Wesley when
And Wesley, what was your idea?
they review the pictures together before posting, is
Okay.
that what you said? So that's Wesley and Tasha review pictures together before pictures are posted. Okay, so some of the new ideas that came out to adjust this one about Wesley starts making Tasha the butt of jokes. We have Wesley make sure he doesn't post humiliating comments toward Tasha. Wesley talks to Tasha if Wesley's upset about something Tasha said. So Tasha and Wesley check in to see if Wesley is upset about something when Tasha sees a snarky post from Wesley. Tasha talks to Wesley when she's upset about something Wesley said. Wesley and Tasha review pictures together before pictures are posted. So which of these new ideas do you think you could agree to?
I can agree to all of them.
What do you think? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just circle all of these. So the next one that you all dotted for adjustment was Tasha makes a general post apologizing for any comments that may have offended people. And Tasha, you had concerns about this one. What were they?
Yeah, why do I have to be the one to apologize? He should apologize as well.
Okay, so another idea is Wesley makes a general post apologizing for any comments that may have offended people. Is that right? Okay, so is it okay if I repeat
That's
marks
fine.
for the rest of the, so that you all know that's what this one is, repeating that one? Any other ideas about that one? What do you think about this idea, Wesley?
If we both do it, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so I'll circle both of these. In the agreement, it may be Tasha and Wesley both make general posts, but we'll talk more about that when we get to agreement writing, which what makes more sense.
The final stage of
You're muted, Tracee.
Thank you. All right, can you hear me okay? All right. So several things going on with that I want us to pay attention to. The one of the first ones is kind of like the win-win knit that Erica did. She knitted entertainment and protection to help them figure out how they wanted to adjust the idea. So generally when I'm starting off stage C of the process, I'll ask them which one they want to start off with. And I usually launch right into doing a win-win knit with it, you know, so I'll say, okay, so what was it that you liked about this? Who liked, first I ask who liked the idea, even if I know, I'll ask so that I don't have to, you know, offer up my neutrality to my memory. So I'll ask who liked this idea? What did you like about it? Right. And then I ask the other person, what was it about this idea that concerned you? All right. And in both cases, I'm pulling together their values. Okay, so you liked it because it got you the entertainment that you were looking for, and you were upset about how, you know, like protection for emotions that you were looking for wasn't met by this idea. So how can you adjust this idea? And what I'm trying to do is keep the value that's already in there and then get this other value. So how can you adjust this idea to get the protection that you're looking for and keep the entertainment that you're looking for? All right. And again, when people are quiet, you ask that question. If you or your co-mediator ask that question, what's the next thing that you do?
Wait for response.
Shut up and wait. That's right. Shut up and wait. Because if it's quiet afterwards, quiet is the sound of what?
Thinking.
Thinking. That's what thinking sounds like. Okay. So give them chance, time, and space to think. Okay. And I think my best win-win knits, people are quiet for a little bit. Okay. So whatever your strategies to keep yourself from not jumping in on their quiet time, engage those at this point. You know, Webb was saying, you know, we could use different font colors in stage C to like capture the new ideas. And I am fine with that. You know, Webb types fast, so he can do that change. People ask frequently about like which color do we use to write the adjustment, the adjusted ideas or what have you. For me, the priority is getting them up there. All right. That's all I really care about. Any other questions with stage C? In a lot of ways, I think stage C can be the trickiest stage in the 4. So because we're still using open-ended questions, and I'm always surprised by how hard open-ended questions are for people. They're like really stumped. I asked an open-ended question to somebody. It wasn't even a mediation. It was like via text, and the person could not answer my open-ended questions. It was like we were planning to get together for dinner, and I was like, okay, so what's the plan for tonight? What are the plans for tonight? And it just replied, I'm heading home to shower. I'm like, that's not a plan. That's helpful and good to know. I appreciate that. And like every time I ask an open-ended question, he would answer not what I was asking. And I asked my housemate niece, what the hell is going on? Why am I not getting questions? She's like, no one talks like that, Tracee. I'm like, shut up. And I checked in with my best friend after after my niece answered incorrectly. I checked in with my best friend, and she confirmed that, in fact, no one talks like that. So turns out it's not just in mediation that people struggle with these things. So so if we ask an open-ended question, right? And they're like, we aren't going to interrupt. But if they do say something like, yeah, I don't know how to answer that question, then I will engage. And I'll ask, like clarifying questions. Okay. What stage C questions do you have, or experiences that you've had that have been difficult in stage C? Hey, Aisha, what you got? Okay. I just forgot my question. Oh, here it is. So you start off stage C, you go back to the ones that were dotted, and then they come up with new ideas, and they agree to, let's say they come up with 3 ideas, they agree to 2 of them, and 1 they don't agree to. 1 person likes, but the other person doesn't like. So then are we doing the same stage 3 process for that new idea that only 1 person liked? Okay, wait a minute. So they had an idea. Say that one more time, Aisha, I'm sorry. The way you said it was just fine. I just having this kind of menopausal moment where words just kind of bounce against my forehead and don't penetrate into the whole skull. So can you just say it exactly how you said it one more time? Well, I'll do my best. So you start off stage C with what they dotted, and then you go in and get their new ideas. Okay. And so they give 3 new ideas. Okay. And they agree to 2 of those, and then 1 person likes, the other person does not like. So then to me, that's a new dot. Right. And then, so are we doing stage C for that new idea? We are. Okay, thank you. Right. And just remember, every idea that you tweak and adjust in stage C adds a new feather to your wings in heaven. Just saying. I have it on high authority. It's in the book of Revelations. Deep in there. Okay. That's good. Good. But yeah, you are taking that through stage C again. Any other stage C questions?
We are still reflecting in stage C.
And you're still, yeah. So you notice in the video that Erica and I are not reflecting as much in brainstorming as we were in other parts of the process. We are bringing back in feelings and values that we heard them articulate in the other part in stage, in step 2 of the process. We are bringing them back in, and we're mostly, if there's new stuff in there, then we're redirecting that back into the brainstorm. So if they said something new, we're like, okay, so what are the ideas that would get you that sensitivity around your employment that you're looking for when it comes to online communication? What are the ideas that will support your friendships when it comes to online communication? But most of the reflections are kind of like full reflection, kind of reserved for when we hear new information that we hadn't gotten before. Okay. Good question. All right, anything else before we move on to, oh, yes, Janie and then what?
I just wanted to clarify, we still are supposed to go back and ask about the items, the ideas that weren't circled or dotted, correct?
So after we've gone through the dotted ones, right? Best practice is to read through the other ones and say, are there any of these that you feel like could work with some tweak and adjust? Yeah. Okay. And Webb, what did you have?
Well, really, it's just a question of like, what's the best technique, if you will. So you're going and you're checking on a dotted one. It turns out, the other participant is not really seeing any hope of providing a modification. And so I guess you're kind of checking in with the first participant to see, are you still looking for that idea? Like, how do you close it out if they don't modify it and agree to it? What's the
that's a good question, Reb. But we want to pay really good attention to their collaborative energy. So if we're feeling like, okay, we've taken a couple of shots at coming up with ideas on this. So what I say, so this one, so this one's going to stay dotted, and I want to check in on the next one. All right, to see if there's some more opportunities. And then when I read through the list, I can add that to the list of things that I read through to see, are there some more things that you feel like you could work with some tweaking and adjusting? Okay. Yes, Claudia.
I had the experience this week in a mediation where the participants both agreed to a few ideas that were all mutually exclusive. And so it was a little tricky to reflect that and not be too directive about it. Do you have some thoughts about such a thing?
Yeah, I'll just so what do they say, we'll never talk again and we'll talk every night. Those those like ideas like that. Right.
Something like that.
So I'll read through this and I said I just want to check with you to see how both of these things will happen. And that's it. It's like getting a detail.
No.
Okay. I think Webb in mind, we had some kind of close to that. Like they had an idea that was like required a decision to be made, you know, like who's gonna be the person that makes the final decision. And they're like, somebody needs to make the final decision. But we're not sure how we'll decide who's gonna decide on who's gonna make the final decision, like, and so right now that decision is not yet made, and so they might, there are people that I need to talk to every day and that I never want to talk to. And so we might have to stay flexible with them, in that place of indecision until they, figure out a way to make that decision, So we didn't let the whole session get hijacked by that unanswered question. We still proceeded through to kind of figure out what else they could make decisions about. And the truth is we may start another brainstorm with that question not quite answered yet. Right. And it might not be until we get to the agreement writing that we revisit, like, okay, so here's a looming question. What are your current thoughts around this? What were we gonna say?
I was just gonna say another, like, an opportunity for them to kind of review that and think about it is when you do the check-in to see if, what challenges they might have, in this agreement. That might be a case where they could see, we agreed, we're going to have a tiebreaker, but that's a challenge. So all of our other solutions are about how we'll never need to get to a tiebreaker because we have all these things in place. So that does give them an opportunity, I think, to address that issue. I don't think that we would point out explicitly, like, you guys are, say you agree that you're going to have a tiebreaker, but you haven't defined how that's done, right? We would, we check in on details, and maybe that, again, for that specific case, that tiebreaker is in theory, but they really work to have solutions that will never require. That's really what they were working on, is all the ideas they had would result in them never requiring to come to a tiebreaker. But so.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Webb. Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about C before we jump on to stage D?
Yeah.
Oh.
Have you ever used a win-win net combine two brainstorms to come out with an answer or solution?
So that, have I used a win-win net to do what?
To combine a brainstorm, an idea, a suggestion, to come out with an idea for both of them that works mutually for the participants.
Yeah, that is definitely my intention around the win-win net, right? And so that's why when we're picking values for the win-win net, we are intentionally picking values that they are talking about or treating as if they were mutually exclusive. So I'm going to pick, like you're looking for ideas around social media that protect your professional reputation, right? And you're looking for ideas around social media that that are fun and interesting. So what are both of your ideas around, you know what, let me change it from fun and interesting. Let me get even further away. You're looking for ideas around social media that allow you to get into the nuances around the social, political, and economic issues, right? So what are some ideas that you have around social media that would allow you to discuss social, political, economic issues and will protect your professional reputation? Okay, so like those can be things that people are talking about, like you can't do both at the same time. And we're like, maybe you can. Let's see, let's figure it out. All right. So yeah, that's exactly how we're using win-win nets.
I thought Vince was asking about brainstorming for two different topics. Was that what you had in mind, or did I misunderstand?
About the idea that, okay, let's say the topic, like chunking, I guess the word would be to use win-win net to chunk ideas, like where it seems to almost connect, but not connect. Same topic, just the idea of the topic, I guess. I think.
Well, I don't know that would necessarily be like a job for win-win net as much as like something that kind of needs to be figured out in step 3 when you're figuring out how to name the topic. Mm-hmm. Chunking two topics together. So we need to decide if we're like chunking together communication with each other and communication with others. Or is that what you're talking about?
More of like, let's just say something around that, like just finding, let's find the common ground. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Claudia, for helping me see that. So I think in that situation, like that's something that needs to be dealt with in step 3 before we move into brainstorm. All right. And so we need to talk with each other. Like, so are these the same topic or are these two separate topics?
Okay. So it's more like exhausting the values and feelings through the topics, just to make sure you keep it streamlined.
Yeah, and just remember, like, when you're framing the topics, that frame that you have, and it's in my formula sheet that I gave you, framing the topic really is a win-win net. It's kind of a win-win net. And so yeah, you are using a win-win net to kind of help people see, you know, like, is this something that should be chunked or separated from one another?
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about stage C before we move on to stage D of step 4? All right, let's get into it then.
I'd be very interested in collecting people's ideas about.
Once they get home.
I'm sorry, somebody say something?
Sorry, I didn't realize we were doing the video. Sorry, I'm hushing up.
Okay, you sure? You're sure? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I'll hold my question.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to be asking the who, what, when, where, how, getting all the details so that they have an agreement that they can work with. Pay attention to all the questions that you hear Erica and I asking in the role play, and pay special attention to the reality check that we do at the end of this stage. We're specifically using feelings to make sure that they have an agreement that works for them and that meets their needs.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the ones that you all have agreed to. So these are the ones that are circled. And we're going to get details about what is needed to really make these work. And so we'll take one of them at a time. So with this, and what I'm going to be asking is like who, what, where, when, and how kinds of details, right? So, this one is Wesley starts posting pictures without asking T. What details do you all need about how that's gonna happen, or by when, or what it's really gonna look like to make this one work?
Well, if he just, you know, ask me if it's okay to post my picture and make sure I say yes before he does, that's all we need.
So one detail is, Wesley makes sure T says yes
Mm-hmm.
before posting. Any other details that you think would make this one?
I can show her the picture, first, and then get her yes and no.
Okay,
'Cause
Shows T.
that might need to go first
Okay.
before the other comment.
first, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay,
That's,
that's it. Okay, so what do you all think about this one? That Wesley shows T to pick first, and Wesley makes sure T says yes before posting.
Yes.
Yep, you like both of those
I like
details, I'm
that.
just gonna circle these. So this next one is Wesley is more respectful. What ideas do you have about what respectful means and what you want it to look like?
Well, for me, I felt like it was covered in the last one with,
the two things we're gonna do about it.
Okay, about posting pictures
Okay,
and how
I
that's
can-
gonna
I can
happen.
agree with that.
pictures.
Okay.
And then we already talked about him not, you know, making no smart remarks about them.
Okay, what are your thoughts about Wesley?
I can agree with that.
Okay, so the respectful is covered here, and then the other? what
Yes.
did you- Okay, so this last one is, Tasha is more respectful when making comments about Wesley's postings. What ideas do you have about what respectful comments look like?
Well, I guess after we have a conversation about what was disrespectful, then I'll be more clear on what's expected of me. And so,
Okay. So what's the idea that you have? So we have this idea over here about having a conversation about what was disrespectful.
uh-huh,
And also having a conversation about what will be posted.
Okay,
We'll
so
talk
you wanna
about-
include that in the
Right,
conversation?
that probably will be covered.
Okay, so there's a detail, so in the conversation, and when we get to that idea, we'll get details about when you wanna have that conversation and things like
Exactly.
that. But we'll add here in the convo about what was disrespectful, what did you just say again? What else, what were you saying you
I
wanted to talk
said that
about?
also we were gonna have a conversation about the postings. So
Okay,
in that conversation, we can determine what's,
what's respectful and what's
Exactly.
not, okay. So in the conversation about what was disrespectful,
and in the
Let's see.
conversation about what we're gonna post, so there was two different conversations.
okay.
So we're having a conversation about what's disrespectful, and we're having a conversation about what we're going to post.
Okay, so in the conversations about, so this is convos about what was disrespectful and about posts, about what to post, Wesley and Tasha will make agreements about what respectful comments look like. Is that right?
Correct.
Any other ideas about, how to make this, about what respectful means?
no,
Okay. So just so you know, when we get to writing your agreement, all of this will make sense. But what this idea is saying is that Tasha is more respectful when making comments about Wesley's postings. And the details are in the conversations about what was disrespectful about the posting and what you all will post. You'll make agreements about what respectful comments look like from now on. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So next what's gonna happen is we would do this exact same thing with all of the circled agreements, all of the circled ideas that they have so far. And so it means you get a mini brainstorm a lot of times of each idea. And you don't just automatically assume that all of the new ideas about details are ones that they're agreeing to. You're still gonna go back and ask, okay, so of these new ideas about details, which of these details do you agree to? And then you get, you circle those. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is what we call reality testing. So while a lot of times we're asking 4 ideas by bringing up values. Earlier you said respect was important to you, how you get that respect. Now, in order to test their ideas with them to see if they think they're gonna work, we can use feelings to do that. So earlier, Tasha, you were saying that you felt humiliated around some of the posts. And Wesley, you were saying you felt insulted around some of the comments about in relation to your friends.
Right.
If you all were to follow through with the ideas you've come up with about social media posts, would you still feel humiliated?
No.
And would you still feel insulted? Okay, thank you.
Stop. All right, there we go. All right. So, stage D, like sometimes in stage D, it can be as simple as just finding out when things are happening. You know, this is going to happen by this time. I'm going to do this or what have you. But like that one, it was like each detail was almost another brainstorm in it. And particularly who on here is doing parenting plan mediations? Do I have parenting plan mediators on? Yeah. So those details, particularly in parenting plan, can really have a lot of, you know, contingency plans to them. You know, something about families have a lot of logistics and details, and you know, your backup plans need backup plans. So I say that as one of the kids that was often sitting as the last, if not the second to the last kid waiting to be picked up at any venue. So I want us to, you know, this is a really good place to make sure that you are ready to go into that, right? So if you are tired and you have been mediating for an hour and 38 minutes and you're at stage D, take an inventory on where the participants are, like what's their collaborative energy looks like, where you and your co-mediators looks like. So if they're good to go, your co-mediator is good to go, and you're exhausted, this may be a good time to like show great humility and pass the keyboard or the marker to your co-mediator and ask for help. Okay. Because I said Erica as part of our prep that for doing this video, it was hot as hell up in that church when we were mediating. That building had, that particular room is the largest room, best acoustics, and 0 air conditioning. And I don't know if this was August or September, but it was, you know, hot-tober as far as I'm concerned. And so that's why I was like, I'll do the first 2. I'll do the stage A and stage B, because I know I'm going to be ready to tap out at C and D. So those are all the factors I'm considering when deciding who's doing what. Claudia and Sharon, who had something that said, I couldn't see who was talking. Was that you, Sharon?
It was. Claudia can go first though.
I'm
Okay.
just going to comment that this makes me really appreciate doing it on Zoom where we can type and
Right.
add typing, you know, more lines to each idea, because doing it the way Erica was just doing it on the poster board, it looks impossible again.
Well, I mean, I think it's, yeah, I could see that. I have a hard time seeing all the ideas when we're typing though, unless we're doing it on Google Docs. So some centers do it on Google Doc. Do y'all use a Google Doc or do y'all use Word? Y'all use Word? Okay. Yeah. So I kind of miss being able to see all the sheets at one time. That's my only thing. That's my main thing with the brainstorm. I got a lot of things when it comes to Zoom mediation though. Sharon, what were you gonna say?
I'm always crispy fried burnt by the time 4D comes around, and so are the participants. And I really have a hard time so often keeping the energy up and just digging those last few things out of them. And I really, I'd be curious what strategies people use to keep morale up. And also, you know, I feel like I always end up defaulting. I never get the interesting one's like, be respectful. So I never get to ask things like, okay, what does that look like? I'm always asking, they're always really concrete things like, okay, anything you want to capture about like who, what, when, where, why, how. And I find really hard to sort of break out of that question and get creative. So I've just kind of wanted to poll people if people have any other detail polling questions that kind of build energy back up, because it's always a dead zone for me.
So I might say I have at times have said, so at this point in this stage, we want to make sure that if there are any devils in these details, we want to work them out. So just, at a quick scan, I might just keep it start off with an open-ended question. At a quick scan, what are some logistics that you want to make sure get covered in these ideas? I don't know if that's helpful, Sharon.
I like that. So sort of throwing it open, not about any specific.
Yeah. To see, what they come up with first, right? And and I also would be cautious about launching it because like you said, deep fried tired. So this might not be the thing that we do the last 30 minutes of the mediation, but something that we do at the beginning of the next session.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of times when the participants are really fried, what happens is, you can tell they need details. I mean, that's my judgment,
right.
But, it's like, and you ask, okay, anything you want to bake into this one? They're like, nah. And it's,
right.
I feel like we're setting them up to fail in a way, but yeah, maybe coming fresh is a good idea near the end. And give them a preview, say like, okay, we're going to, we're tired, set up a new session and say, we're going to, maybe you want to think about, we're going to come back and get some of these details that make sure this plan succeeds for you. You can think about that and then let them puzzle.
Yeah. Vince, was that a question? And then Janie, did you have something too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just throwing back my hair. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. No problem. Janie, how about you?
Seeing this, it's sort of like what Claudia said, like with all the little writing of the details. One of the things that I realized I haven't gotten that far in a long time.
Yeah.
Is so each of the detail ideas, is that a separate idea, like a separate item that would be in an agreement, or are those sort of like sub points under the original idea?
Yeah, I'm as long as it's captured, I really don't have hard opinions about it. As long as it's captured in its consensus. So sometimes it makes sense to pull it out as a whole nother idea. Pull it out. But if it's like just adjustments to it, like, okay, we're gonna do it on this date at this time, at this location, then I'm fine with it. Or if it's just, I'm gonna send it to you via Cash App, this exact amount, then that could just be a detail. But right. But if it's got, if it's starting to be a paragraph, then I might want to divvy those up into different pieces.
So it's almost like more quantitative versus qualitative is a way that I would sort of think about that.
Quantitative.
Meaning like
gotcha.
More concrete, I guess.
Yeah, gotcha.
Versus more explanation and.
Yeah. Atul, did you have something? No? Okay, you're good. All right. And then, so I'm getting the details. I'm monitoring, like Sharon said, I'm monitoring my energy level. It is fine. And I want to give everybody permission, because I have done this too, to like get through getting details on like 2 or 3 of these ideas. And I'm like, all right, co-mediator, I need to switch up here. Okay. It is okay. All right. Take good care of yourself so you can do this and, and maximize the collaborative opportunity. And on Zoom, I want us to be, in general, I want participants to call breaks, unless we got like a literal physical need we need to take care of. I want to make sure we're not using breaks as a way to kind of manage people's behavior, but we're taking breaks when we need them. And I think it's okay that on Zoom that we kind of talk to our co and maybe see if we want to schedule in a regular break. particularly before we get into something that's, I need to figure out better advertisement for how I talk about stage D, because I find myself using words like tedious a lot. But when we get into the fine details, you know, again, you want to take care of your energy level. Yes, Vince.
All right, so what if it's a very strict one-time only mediation and you're in stage D and it is like 30 minutes and you're like 30 minutes in, and what do you do from there? Like,
What? Okay, say it one more time. If it's
okay, what if you have a one-time only mediation that was agreed upon by like the participants? You're in stage D. Both sides are exhausted, but they want to keep going. You and your you and your co-mediator see that it could hinder the process. What do you do there with time?
So are we talking about going past the 2-hour period?
Or
they're,
right, like
if they are within 2 hours, and even though you see they're tired, but they're saying, yeah, we want to push through this, then I'm going to honor their self-determination on that. Now, if I need to take a break because I don't want to pee on myself, I'm going to take a break. But if it is, we're going to take a break. But if it's just, you know, like I think they're tired and they're not going to do as well with this collaboration because I think they're tired, but they're saying we want to push on and it's only been an hour and a half, then I'm going to honor their self-determined and push on, right? But if this is past 2 hours, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to decide, yeah, I really need to, I have a hard stop. I have to end it this time. I won't make it be about them, but I'm not going to go past 2 hours just because they're like trying to race to the finish line.
Okay.
Okay. Picture 2 goldfish and that's I'm sure there's more. Thank you. What did I see? Oh, Aisha, I'm listening.
So at the end, Tracee did the reality testing with their no, maybe it wasn't, I don't know what's called. Well, checking in with their feelings, if so-and-so you felt this way and so-and-so you felt this way, and if you all follow through with this plan, will you still feel this way and that way? Let's say they're like 5 people. So do you do the same process where you say everybody's feelings and then check in with them individually?
In terms of doing the reality check?
Is that what that's?
Yeah, so the reality check, yeah, so Erica did it where she kind of checked in with them kind of jointly. You have this feeling, you had this feeling, would you still feel this way? Would you still feel this way, right? I usually do it one at a time. So, and I don't think either is wrong. So Erica's was like, when it came to, I can't remember the feeling she used. I usually write it down, but she's like, okay, so when it came to communication, you were feeling insulted. And I think I was hearing you were feeling misunderstood. So if you were to implement these ideas, would you still feel insulted? No. Would you still feel misunderstood? So you could do it that way. I typically do it where I'll do it one at a time. So earlier when we were talking about communication, I think I heard you saying you were feeling belittled. If you were to implement these ideas, would you still feel belittled? No? Okay. And when we were talking about social media, I think I heard you saying you were feeling judged. If you were to implement these ideas, would you still feel judged? Okay. Any, so is that answering your question, Aisha?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right. And anyone else? I've got a flyer for the Mediators After Dark for everybody. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Anything else? All right, so we've done that. Any other, Aisha, is there another question, or we just need to take down your hand?
Oh, I think it's down, but
Sharon, that's
Sharon.
Sharon, I'm sorry. Sharon jumped into the spot Aisha was in on my.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, actually, I was trying to remember. I should have my manual out, but the what is it? The pressure testing. Is that in the agreement phrase? Is that step 5, where you ask them if there are if they see any potential wrinkles?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. You're correct. And thank you for capturing that. So in step 6, so before the reality check is when you would do that, right?
Okay.
So I would ask, before I do the reality check, I would ask, are there any complications you see to implementing any of these ideas? Any challenges that you see to implementing these ideas? That's the question that we would ask before we get into to the reality check.
Okay, and if that bounces them right back to 4A, that's fine, right? Because I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
People are like, this
Yeah.
thing's gonna melt down. What do we do then? And then we're right back
Right.
to, okay.
Yeah. So that could very well, you could very well wind up back at stage A. So be prepared for that. That is not a reason to not ask that question.
And then you'd go through all the stages again with those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. If anybody's holding a hand, I'm on another screen right now. I'm trying to copy and paste something to you all. So is there another comment? I just put into the chat the Eventbrite invitation for the Mediators After Dark. It was a lot of fun. The first session, Valentine's Day, was a lot of fun, and I expect this one to be too. And we had mediators from across we had mediators from Maryland, Louisiana, DC, Connecticut, and Canada on. So it was good times. Any questions about other parts? We've got good timing, and I just got question and answer set aside, so you can ask questions about stage D, not just stage D, but step 4, and you can ask questions about any other part of the mediation process.
Which I have a question about. Can you hear me, Tracee?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't mind if you do something else. I just wasn't sure you could hear.
No, I hear you.
If
I'm trying to write while I talk, because it might help stuff land in my head a little better.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If you had a case that had that kind of write-up of ideas in the brainstorm and then the details, would you try to write up an agreement in that same session? Or try to draft it and from your notes after the session and then present it at the beginning of the next session to correct and modify?
Yeah, I mean, if I have a lot of time, I'll go into agreement writing during the session. But most of the times, like, I get to that stage kind of like at the end. And if there's and that's again, if I've done brainstorm all the topics, and I have enough time, then yeah, I'll give it a shot. But I don't want to race to try to write the agreement, particularly in parenting plan. So like in basic mediations, a lot of times going from the brainstorm to the agreement is just kind of transposing the language, and there's not a whole lot of extra to it.
Right.
And it's okay, it's okay to do that. With parenting plan, there's usually a whole lot more details to it. And I usually wind up having to bring that back, and a lot of participants, when we're mediating in person, they'll usually just take a picture of the brainstorm and they'll start kind of practicing it beforehand. And so when they come back, they like that draft agreement gets a lot of changes, a lot of edits to it in that draft agreement. So I kind of prefer it if they come back with it after we finish the last brainstorm. But if they're not if they're not up for coming back for another session and I can't, like we've got plenty of time to get that agreement written, then I can't really make a case for like fake stalling it, but just reminding them, like you can come back to mediation if it's helpful.
And with multiple topics, I know Sam and I had talked about this recently. You wouldn't write up the agreement until you went through all the topics.
Yeah, I would not write it. I may do a draft agreement
for yourself.
For myself, right. Well, and I'll bring the draft agreement at the beginning of the next session.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes the center will email it to them. And let me say this, never email participants from your email. So I usually give it to whoever's doing the intake and ask them to share it with the participants. But we don't want to be emailing them from our email address because a lot of times they'll try to get us to mediate through email.
And so if you did that process, like with the coordinator emailing that to them, that's okay. That doesn't create unintended consequences of.
Say that one, what doesn't create unintended consequences?
Well, if you go ahead and because I've wondered about that. So if I write up a draft agreement for one topic and then the coordinator emails it to the participant, there's no, I could just see some consequences happening, like the participant getting really upset because something wasn't expressed correctly, or so does that?
Yeah, usually, so when I bring them a draft agreement, like it's got draft in a big watermark across it and share it or read it, right? And if something is wrong, this is a chance for them to say it's wrong. Okay. And if we mixed something up or we misunderstood something, I'm quick to apologize. I apologize. I misunderstand that. So what is the language y'all would want to have in there? And I may be re-brainstorming that solution. So that's not completely uncommon that we are like, what happens more often is they come back after, because they took a picture of the brainstorm, they started trying to implement it, and they come back the next session and it's like, this worked really well, and this we've already done, so you can take that out of, but this didn't work at all. And so they need to reconfigure this.
Yeah, because I always thought it would be probably good to have it emailed to people before the next session, just because I know it takes me, I have to mull something over a while, but, think about it. And if we just bring it in, people are responding, and then afterwards they might think of other things that they couldn't think of just right on the spot.
Yeah. That's one of the things I like about parenting plan is like people have a little more time with decisions that they've made before they get to the agreement writing stage to kind of like figure out like, will this actually work? Is this actually going to work?
And Sam, for BICMIC, does that process work with sending out the draft, emailing it ahead of time?
Yeah, if the participants want the draft, I wouldn't like offer it, right? We don't want to make a suggestion about doing something for participants. Sometimes participants have asked to see the agreement after a topic, but I haven't really just been like, and so what we can do is give you an incomplete draft agreement, but that has been requested just like participants have requested their brainstorm, but we don't just like, here is our brainstorm, here's your brainstorm, right? So like, I do it based on what the participants are looking for.
And is that like a rule for us, or is that your personal judgment for yourself?
It's not really a rule, but I'd be interested to have a conversation about like mediator neutrality and non-judgmentalness about if we're offering stuff like to participants about the process. Right? Like we give them, if they want a written agreement, we give them a written agreement at the end of the process, right? Versus like, here's an agreement that's not done. What we can do is give this to you after this topic and after this topic and after that. Like, if they ask that, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that hasn't been something we've been so like forthcoming about if it's not requested by them. Because yeah, I didn't think that was the process. And it seems like we're giving them a suggestion about their agreement.
I might have misunderstood Tracee, because I thought,
Yeah.
Tracee, you were.
No, this is an interesting perspective. So I'm trying to think how is it usually, I frequently have people ask for it. And because I hate writing up agreements, I don't think I volunteer to do it, but it is frequently asked for. So much so that it hasn't been a question like people just automatically ask for it, except for those folks who take a picture of the brainstorm, so there's that.
Okay.
And then since we've been doing it on Zoom, people might ask for, to have the document shared with them.
But yeah,
Oh, sorry, Sam.
No, just to answer your question, we have gotten that, right? When mediators have shared, the participants ask for their brainstorm, the participant asks for the agreement, and then, yeah, I let the coordinator know, and then they handle that. So that is something we do. I just I haven't heard of mediators being the ones, but yeah, Tracee's just saying that comes up for her, right? So if I haven't really been getting that in my mediations, but yes, if the participants are asking for it, I think it's something we could do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember what I used to do before the pandemic.
Was there a before the pandemic?
Oh my goodness. Hey, Atul, what's up?
In general, have people, when you're in the writing the agreement stage, have people been calling a break to do it, or are you doing it essentially right there when people are
For
right
the
on
agreement
screen?
writing stage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually ask for a break.
Okay.
I usually ask for a break so I can confer with my co-mediator and we can be putting it in the right language. We might have them filling out the send them evaluation link or what have you around that time. I usually ask for a break.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying that as a rule, but that's generally kind of my modus operandi.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Other thoughts? All right. Vince, was that a question or yes? No. No. Okay. Okay. All right, good people. Well, I think we are done then. Sam, anything else you want to make sure we cover?
No, this was great. This is really good.
So,
all right. Good.
Do you have a follow-up video on writing up the agreement from that brainstorm?
Yeah, there's more to the video. Did you see the rest of the video? We talk about the agreement
I did a while ago, but
okay. Yeah, I just cut it off. We were just about to talk some more about the agreement.
Oh,
and yeah, so there's more on there about agreement writing.
Okay.
All right. All right, good folks. Well, I hope to see you guys again soon. I know we have CMM has its gala this summer in June. I can't remember the date, but be looking out for information on